Welcome back to Leading Giants. This is the Influence Mastery Company, and if you're going to influence people, you're going to have to identify some of the limiting beliefs that they have that are common. So there are two here we're going to talk about. One of them is actually related to something we've talked about before, where somebody says, I'm too nice to lead. It is in human nature to give ourselves a pass for doing something, and oftentimes to put a high virtue on ourselves in order to excuse ourselves from participating in other behaviors. Well, when you say I'm too nice to lead, and you've heard me say this before, that's a complete false statement. A person can be too weak to lead, but not too nice. To be too nice to lead is to say that all good leaders aren't nice, and that's not true. The best leaders in the world are actually quite nice, but they're also strong. So a person says that, so they make it sound like all those leaders out there, yeah, well, I'm somehow better than them. And it's a way for them to justify their own excuse. So the two that I'm going to cover now are pitting any two good things against each other, of which is that example. One of the primary ones that people do, though, is they say something like, well, I'd be an entrepreneur, it's just that I'm a family guy. Or I'd be the number one rep, it's just that, family's important to me, or whatever, or my health is important, something like that. The immature or less experienced leader is going to go, oh, yes, of course, you know what? I'm sorry I was even asked you to increase your performance. I guess, yeah, no, I don't want you to compromise your beliefs. It's a silly idea altogether. The best performers in the world are people who generally are taking their whole life seriously. And while we all know somebody who works so hard that they neglect their family, really, that's not about working hard and family in opposition to each other. It's about that person generally not wanting to be around their family for another reason. If they weren't working all the time, they'd be in the gym all the time, or with friends all the time, or on the golf course all the time. There are some times where good people who value everyone in their family are working excessive hours because there's a tremendous need, but it's a season in life. We're not talking about that. We're talking about in general. In general, people who make time for their work, make time for their family, they have these equal priorities. So you just need to call them on the carpet. If somebody says, I'd be the top performer, but I'm a family person, this is what I say to them. I say, well, yeah, I don't see that there's a conflict there. I've noticed that the top performers that I've ever worked with, particularly here in this organization, are actually really good with their family. So I'm not sure if you were trying to level an insult to them and you'd literally walk up to them and say, hey, you must be bad with your family because you're so good at the job. But you wouldn't say that because that's probably not true. So even though you wouldn't accuse them of that, you somehow are giving yourself a pass that way. And what you're doing is you're crediting yourself with a certain virtue that others don't have to justify it. It's a dangerous place to be. I'd re-examine that and I'd ask myself, what is it really that's preventing me from being a top performer? Because I believe that you can be the top performer and get home every single night for dinner. Okay, how are you going to do that? Oh, and by the way, some people are watching going, no, an entrepreneurs can't. Bullcrap, man. I build companies worth hundreds of millions of dollars and home every night, taking vacations like you wouldn't believe. You do not have to work like a freak show to get things done. You have to leverage things, and I'm going to get to that in a separate video. You can have freedom and you can have great opportunity. The second thing that they say is, well, I'm not like Nico, where foreign languages come easy to him, or I'm not like that person who's naturally inclined to play a musical instrument. If you go to most people who learned a foreign language or learn to become a virtuoso or become a black belt or something, and you say, well, that looks like it comes easy to you, they'd be like, you have no idea. I didn't know the word apple from the word, shoe, and it took me forever to figure it out, and I made mistakes in conversation. I had to fumble through it. I studied like you wouldn't believe. I went through intensive training, and then I got to the point where I was at least comfortable enough to try to speak, and then after a longer period of time, I became fluent. They don't say, oh yeah, you know what, I took Spanish on the first day, and I learned the language, within a week. No, doesn't happen. The virtuoso, look at the calluses on their fingers that they had to develop by playing over and over and over and over again. Is it true that certain things might be a little bit more natural for some people than others? Yes, that is true, but it is not a full-on wholesale thing. Most people who become proficient and good at some sort of thing by way of expertise have gone through a pretty intense amount of suffering in order to get there, because it is not easy for most people. So if you're the type of person who says, that doesn't come as easy to me as them, that's why I don't do it, It reminds me of a story. I remember a person I knew very, very well enough to know the facts about their health. And they said, the reason I don't work out like you is because I'm allergic to it. And I was like, what? I laughed because I knew them well. So it wasn't like a secret amount of like health information I didn't have. And they were kind of offended that I laughed. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think they're being serious. I said, well, what are your symptoms? And they said, well, when I exercise, I breathe heavy and I sweat and it's very uncomfortable. And I thought for sure they were kidding. And I was like, well, you know that everyone does that, right? Yeah, but not like me. I mean, there was nothing wrong with this person. They just simply were lazy and they didn't want to work out. So they went so far as to say that they were allergic to it, and the symptoms that they have, which all people have, are somehow unique. By the way, no doctor, there was nobody that said this was true. This was just their own imagination because they were not willing to push themselves into anything that was difficult. So we can't be that person. Don't pit two good things against each other. When your people do it, identify it, be gentle about it, but call them on it. And when somebody says it doesn't come easy to me and they use that as a pass, remind them that all people have to suffer through things. That's the way greatness is made. The key to success is doing what you don't feel like doing. If you do that, you can be a giant, and we can go slay some dragons.